My name is Lisa Ryden. I work for Tetra Pak as Vice President for Social Sustainability. Businesses should understand where and how their operations and their value chain might affect people's human rights. And after understanding that, they should take action to prevent those risks to people, and as well try to put the situation right where those risks have materialized or where people have been harmed. So this process, which is known as human rights due diligence, is in essence a risk management process for risks to people as compared to risk to business. A couple of things that shape that approach and is part of the UN guiding principles on business and human rights is the first one, the prioritization criteria, which ensures that you direct your attention, your resources on the most severe risks to people. The second principle, which is important, is that you put the views of the people at risk as a critical input for that process, to have the people as the center of the process. When first starting to identify our human rights impact, we started with a general mapping of risk areas. We did that by using desk research, general risk tools, reports from NGOs, audit data, and so on. After identifying kind of the highest areas of risk across the value chain, we then dug deeper into those specific areas and geographies. At that point, we used more targeted tools where we used on-the-ground human rights impact assessments, worker voice surveys, or direct interviews with affected stakeholders in very specific contexts and areas. And our objective with that was really to understand more deeper the issues that those people faced. Engaging with workers and communities in our value chain really informs that identification, prioritization, and the actions that we take when it comes to addressing human rights. We think about stakeholder engagement in 3 levels, you could say. So on the first level, it's the engagement with external experts that can kind of help to direct our strategy. At the second level, we work with credible proxies of affected stakeholders in ongoing relationships to inform us about the views of those affected stakeholders. And at a third level, we work with direct engagement with those affected stakeholders, which could be through interviews or surveys, and that's more targeted in specific areas of risk. So I can give an example of how that kind of 3-level approach to stakeholder engagement plays out in practice when it comes to one of our priority issues for human rights, which is the working and living conditions for informal waste collection workers in countries where formal waste management doesn't exist. So at the first level, we're working together with an international NGO that represents and work towards the respect for human rights on informal waste collection workers. That is informing our corporate overall approach to the topic. Secondly, we are engaging then in countries that we have prioritized. We're engaging with waste picker associations, which are credible proxies in general for those affected stakeholders, the workers. And then on the third level, we're engaging directly in targeted or specific locations with those individuals and these workers. And we do that through then interviews, often via local NGOs. So the objective with that really direct engagement with the affected stakeholders is to understand kind of the relative severity among all the issues that they might face, and also what in their view would be meaningful action and what support they would like to see. So by engaging with these affected stakeholders in the different country context and understanding that context, we know that the actions could also differ between the countries. So in some countries, we might first focus on helping to get IDs, for instance, for workers that helps them then to access social security. In other countries, we might start with provision of PPE that helps them prevent injuries in a hazardous working environment. And then in another example, it could be helping to set up childcare facilities that will help prevent children from accompanying their parents in a, again, kind of a hazardous working environment. So governments are the most important actor when it comes to protecting human rights. However, that doesn't mean that business cannot play a complementary role in creating better outcomes for those people whose human rights are at risk. A company, as an employer, as a buyer of goods and services, as a supplier, might affect people's human rights in the daily work. And that means workers in the supply chain, employees, consumers. So working with Shift is very beneficial for us in a number of ways. So firstly, we can draw on their expertise and experience in working with many companies over the years on specific topics. We also participate in peer learning groups to learn from other companies that might have been working on issues that we're facing. And I think finally also how the learning about how companies can embed and integrate the work for human rights in their processes, governance policies.